Well, I want to welcome you to this week's episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. Sponsored every week, presented by CVC Success Group. And what we do, we try to share some ideas, try to share concepts with you, things that will be of value to you. And actually, this topic this week was inspired because I attended a webinar earlier this week and I got some really great ideas from it from listening to some people. The webinar I attended had people on like Tommy Mello, Ellen Rohr, Ken Goodrich, Jim Leslie, and it talked about a lot of things in there. But one of the things was the importance of implementation. And they said something on there, which is we've all heard of Disney World, we've heard of Disneyland, and we commonly think of Walt Disney when we think of these things. But if you actually do the research and drill down on this, you'll find out that Walt was the visionary. Walt had this vision, but Walt really didn't make it happen. His brother, Roy Disney, was the implementer that implemented the ideas of Disneyland and Disney World. So today, our topic's going to be on visionaries and implementers. And which one are you? Which one are you? One of the books that I recommend that I read some years ago is the book Traction. And Traction is written by a man by the name of Gino Wickman. And one of the things that jumped out in there was that he talked very much about what he called the visionary, and also he called it the integrator, which is the person that takes the ideas of the visionary and actually implements them. Because as a rule, visionaries don't have the patience to see a project through. Implementers are the ones that actually drive the ideas to reality. And this is what's missing so often in many businesses. Tommy Mello will tell you very quickly he's a visionary. He can see all kinds of things, but he's all over the place. If you ever had a conversation with Tommy, he's talking about 25 different things. And I often see this with clients where they have the vision, but they just don't have the patience to carry them forth. Because the problem with visionaries is they can't stay focused. They've always got great ideas and they're pushing on them with those ideas, but they don't have the patience level to do the grunt work of actually what's involved to bring the vision to life. So, Cheryl, let's go to you first. Do you know people that fall into the category of visionaries that fail as implementers? Have you seen that in your practice, in your work? Do you see that?
Yes, a lot. And I will say the majority of high D in the disc are the visionaries. That's they don't have the patience. But yes, I see it a lot. And the bad part is when that person is through in, like many times they're through into having to be the implementer also, it turns into more chaos than anything else.
Yeah, and it's often like I've got some clients and I talk to them, it's like, hey, we got to work on the foundation. You've got these great ideas. In fact, sometimes I tell them, please don't go to another seminar. Don't attend another webinar. You know what you need to do. And what happens is you keep getting distracted. Let's take an example. People jump on a new software, a new program, but at the same time, they don't have the vision, they don't have the skill, they don't have the patience to actually implement the software. And Josh, this falls down to the people you work with. How often do you see people that had a great idea, they jumped on a great software, but they just can't make it work for them? How often do you see this, brother?
I would say half the people in the industry do that. They fail because they don't have the patience to sit down and learn it and then manipulate it to, where they need it to be.
Yeah.
I see that all the time.
Yeah, and the same thing involves standard operating procedures, SOPs, manuals, whatever you want to call them, SOGs, standard operating guidelines. People will hear a seminar. They will leave that seminar but they just cannot put it together. They can't put together the call scripts. And what happens is they have a lack of patience, and they dump stuff on their people, expecting them to do miraculous work, and they just get mired in the mud, and everybody gets discouraged. Do you run up against that also, Josh?
Yeah. Trying to keep consistency, making sure everybody is in the is really going to be really important for the SOP. That way you have something to fall back onto. This day and age, it's so much easier to write an SOP. I still think you should, when I talk to my clients, I think you should always rage write your SOP. It'll never get done faster with more concentration than when something pisses you off right then and there. That's, I've written, would you say thousands of them, Jerry? And in different formats and things like that. But they were all sparked when someone did something that pissed me off.
Yeah. And here's another example. Our friend Al Levy, we've interviewed him on here. And Al writes, and he's fantastic at writing his manuals, and he's done a fantastic job of this. But here's what Al shared with me. A very small percentage of the people that he has sold his manuals to have ever done them. They have spent $10,000, maybe more, and they have never completed the task. And so what happens is since they didn't implement it, it just sits there and it's a big loss. It's actually waste. One thing I've said for years is FTI, failure to implement. So if you're listening to me right now, how often have you had a great idea that could really take your company profits to a new level that has actually failed on you? So Cheryl, what's your thoughts on this? What are you thinking?
Well, the main thing is I don't know if people realize it that much, or they just assume that they can play both ends of the field until it's just too late. A lot of people are forced into it because their company's small. But even I myself dealt much better when I had somebody to do the small stuff. And it works better when you are more productive doing the other side of it than doing the grunt work, as you call it, even though it has to be done. But I think people have to back up and look at where they really sit, and if they need this person, a CSR, for example, that can take over the things for them, it's time to hire that person.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You brought up a while ago about D personalities, and often D personalities are where you find many visionaries.
Mm-hmm.
What's the personality that makes a great implementer or a great integrator? Is there a certain personality there that's going to fill that role better for you?
An S and C, a combination of a good S and C is probably the best combination for an implementer because they're detail oriented. They look for structure. They are more committed. They're better listeners. They just have a lot of benefits that make it much easier for them to dwell on the project for an extended period of time.
Okay, so the S and the C, the combination of those two, that's what you will look for to have a good implementer. So again, is this a missing factor in a lot of businesses where they have a great idea, they have the vision to do it, but the problem is they just can't make it happen. They just can't make it happen. Josh, you're shaking your head yes.
Well,
Tell me more.
if you're a small company, and just say Service Titan, as you know, takes thousands of hours to really get set up. Do you have someone with the technical expertise? You can just go, here, you do this. That's where it becomes a real thing. And then I'm just going to expand on like what Mr. Roydhouse said about hire an expert. It could be as simple as freight. I've got a customer that loves to go pick up their own stove orders. He's like, oh, I saved, $200 by doing this. I'm like, yeah, but you could have done 2 service calls and made $700. And, sort of that opportunity cost for those things.
Yeah. And
But then
that's what
I was going to follow up with Cheryl. I have a high D, as you guys know, but where does that leave me? Because I'm obviously an implementer for a lot of people, and for my own, for my former company as well. My unicorn.
And well, everybody can do both, Josh. But you had your choice, you'd rather hand it to somebody else to do the typing and the getting it tweaked out, unless you're upset, and then you morph into this other person. So, but can you do a lot of that stuff unless you are upset or you're just put in the position?
I like doing some of it from the creative process. I do, as I'm troubleshooting a workflow or problem like that, as if you guys have seen some of the flow charts and stuff that I put together, I enjoy mapping some of that stuff out. So I think that becomes part of why I could switch, and I'm problem solving, and again, maybe there's a little bit of anger of this should never have happened.
But your D pulls creativity. So
do I like the actual writing of paragraphs? No. And as you guys know from texting you, the percentage of time I actually put a complete thought in a text message is probably pretty rare.
But I think that's where we're talking about implementers, and the thing is, when you're a D, you have the creative. That's one side of me that I like, and I'm as high D as a person can get, and the creativity's there, but that little end of it of having to type the notes and all is not my forte, and I think that's exactly where you're at. And I think Jerry's there. Jerry likes to write, but he's good. He's a word soldier, I guess, what you want to call it. But that's what he's good at. But he still has the vision to do that. He comes up with that vision. He just has the time. But if he could dictate it to somebody and they wrote it like he wanted it written, if I'm wrong, Jerry, would you not go that way?
I would definitely go that way. If I had somebody that I could dictate stuff to that would put it in the proper English, because the thing is, even though I write a lot of words, I'm a terrible writer. The editing has to be done behind me. The spell checking has to be done. Whenever I'm typing, I'm trying to get my thoughts down. I'm not concerned about the proper spelling. In fact, every week, whenever I set this broadcast up, I pull the type and I run it through a spell check. It's like, Lord, this morning I had 12. In that short intro to this, I had 12 misspelled words in it. So I have to go through and make sure it's properly spelled, because that's one of the faults. If you've ever read my emails, you're going to find misspelled words. You're going to find words that don't come out right, because I'm just trying to dump out my brain into the piece of paper, which is part of the problem, I think, of a lot of people. I think that's why they can't write. They're trying to get everything perfect. And the key thing is in writing is to get the words down, to get the thoughts down, and then come back and edit it out to make sure it looks proper with there. And with today's digital technology, it's real easy to do that. You just got to stop and take the time to do it before you hit that send button, which I've learned to do finally.
And I want to give you an example of an implementer. When you wrote a book one time, you misspelled a word right in I think maybe the first page, and the lady that was reading it could not read the remainder of the book because of the mistake. So she was an extremely high S&C.
Yeah, I asked her, I said, I gave her a copy of the book. She was the wife of a client. I said, what'd you think? She said, Jerry, I found a misspelled word on the first page. I couldn't read any further. It just completely blocked it out. Did it hurt my feelings? You better believe it. It really did. It's like, my God, I've written a book. Now you're going to pick out one misspelled word. Give me a break here. But yeah, that's the way some people are. But again, what I'm going to advise you do, in my opinion, there are 2 books that every business owner, every manager needs to read. And they are the E-Myth. It's going to give you great ideas and how to standardize your business, how to be more successful, how to delegate. And the other was the book Traction. Those 2 books that I believe are the basis for building success in a business. Are there more books behind that? You better believe it. But if you've never read those 2 books, order them today and spend some time with them. They're not long reads. You can read them in a couple hours. Pinpoint out where the issues are. But again, if you're a manager, if you're an owner, and you're a visionary, you've either got to become an implementer or you got to bring an implementer onto your team, or as Traction calls it, an integrator. Cheryl, anything you want to add before we bow out of here today?
No, I just think everybody needs to, number one, be aware of what they are and then be aware of what they need.
Very much so. Josh, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I am aware that I'm a people person, and I should never delegate that out.
Say what?
Sarcasm. Cheryl understood what I was getting at.
Yeah. You are a people. Now I've learned something today. I never would have classified you as a people person. I'm glad to know that about you.
I have a hard shell exterior, Jerry, and I'm all gooey on the inside.
Yeah. Mr. Royhouse just laughed, just coasting there. Ha ha. Said he knows you're pretty good. I don't think anybody views you as a people pleaser, buddy. Okay. Well, folks, we appreciate you joining us today. Appreciate the likes on here. Hey, share it out. If you're watching us on the replay, which we get the vast majority of our views on the replay every week. We know everybody's busy. We broadcast live at 12 noon on Fridays. But hey, we appreciate you joining us. And we'll see you next week on the next episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. We appreciate you taking your time to be with us. It's an honor and it's a privilege and it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you every week like this. See you next week. Have a fantastic week ahead.